What is going on, everybody? My name is ZW97 and welcome to another Destiny video. Today we're going to continue with our series with raid weapons. Are they good? Are they bad? And can they be better? So today we're going to focus on the primary weapons of the King's Fall raid. And what's actually kind of cool is that I have all the exotics from the King's Fall raid. So you can see all the artwork and all that. So let's go ahead and get started. And like with all the weapons from the King's Fall raid, I am going to choose recommendations for the last perks. But however, the exotics basically show you the best perks. So even then, I'm still going to show you it. So let's go ahead and get started. So primaries for King's Fall. Okay, starting from the pulse rifle, Smite of Moraine. This is specifically the adapt, and this has solar damage. What's really cool about it is that it has solar damage, not only that, but it's honestly one of the best raid weapons in the game. So first off, it starts off with Will of Light. This weapon deals bonus damage against taken enemies, and this is like with all the weapons that we've done already with the King's Fall, is that every weapon has the Will of Light perk, and it's good against taken. So if you go against taken, definitely use the Will of Light weapons with the King's Fall raid. So for the first perk tree, we have Linear Compensator, Accurized Ballistics, and Field Choke. Out of all these, I'll choose Linear Compensator because it gives you the most stability and the most impact, and it's overall good for the weapons and all that. So use Linear Compensator at all times with this weapon. Really, I think I recommend Linear Compensator with all other raid weapons. So it's probably a good overall good uh, pr- you know, scope and all that. Next perk, you have Cocoon. This weapon stowed for a short time. This weapon is automatically reloaded from your reserves. All King's Fall weapons have this perk, and overall, it's actually good for the Smite of Moraine. Not for like DPS on a boss, but actually really DPS against ads. This is really good against this specific weapon right here is good for ads, and this exotic Smile Moraine is really good for ads, and I'll show you the reason why. Okay, for the second perk tree, you have Hand Loaded. This weapon is effective at extended range, lightweight. When held, this weapon grants +2 character agility, and you have Rifle Barreled. Increase ranged, reduced stability. Out of all of these, Hand Load is the best perk, mainly because it already has really good. You do not want to get rid of stability with any pulse rifle. So since you have hand loaded, you're going to get all the range you need, and this weapon already has really good range, so you don't need that much range for the Smite of Marine. And yeah, hand loaded is really the only option here. And then last but certainly not least, you have Firefly. Precision kills with this damage cause the target to explode. On the Smite Moraine, this is probably one of the best perks for the Smite Moraine. I definitely recommend having Firefly on the Smite Moraine if it's a legendary weapon. So is this weapon good? Is it bad? And can it be better? This is actually a really good weapon. Not only this is awesome exotic primary for all of the raid weapons, having solar damage and overall having a good like impact, good range, good stability. But it also has Firefly and like the recoil is actually really stable. Like I love how it actually jumps every time you shoot it. Some people like to have life support on this weapon, which is good because you basically have a mini red death. And I'm not sure, but you could actually have full auto on this as well, which is also a good perk for the Smite of Marine. But overall, really the two perks I recommend to you is Firefly or Life Support. So yeah, if you have this weapon, make sure you keep it, and it's just overall a good weapon. It's honestly one of my most favorite weapons. Okay, next you have the Doom of Chelchis. Yes, it is called Chelchis. I looked it up online. So, this is a exotic scout rifle that I have right here. There is a legendary version. Do not worry, guys. Like, it's not privileged. It's not privileged to have the Doom of Chelchis. You know, you could only get the legendary one. Specifically, this is the void damage weapon, and you can get these weapons right here, like the exotic versions of any of the raid weapons, by completing the challenge mode on in any of the raids. Like if it's King's Fall weeks for challenge mode, then you have a chance of getting Doom of Chelchis, Smite of Moraine, etc. If it's Courtesan, then you have a chance to get the Word of Crota, you know, Fang of Uryu, you know, all that type of stuff. You know, if it's Vault of Glass, Fatebringer, and if it's Wrath of the Machine, then it's the primaries there, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Okay, so like all weapons with King's Fall, you get Will of Light, which basically does more damage against Taken. Good perk. Linear Compensator yet again for um, a, a weapon from the King's Fall. Like, I'm pretty sure there's Linear Compensator in all of the King's Fall weapons. So, if I'm right on, if it's like that so far, then I guess that's worth a like, honestly. Oh man, just having some, you know, YouTube sensations getting likes. It's just how it goes. So anyway, linear compensator, accurized ballistics, and field choke. As you can tell, I recommend linear compensator. Basically, if you have linear compensator in any of the weapons in the King's Fall, go for it. Just really go for it. Cocoon, you have a cocoon on this weapon. Honestly, I think Cocoon is one of the best weapons to have you know have this perk right here. Specifically because one, you can have a lot of DPS against bosses, and yeah, this is probably one of the best primaries to use DPS in the King's Fall raid, specifically for Cocoon. And for other reason, because it has full auto here, which is probably the best perk here. But I'm supposed to talk about that in a little bit. So for the last tree, you have hand loaded, lightweight, and small bore to increase the range of stability. And yeah, so if you don't have small bore on, you get a total magazine of 19. But however, I like small bore because you get more range of stability, and plus it doesn't really damage your magazine size. It's actually fairly large, so having magazine of 17 is still good on my book. And then you have full auto, which is probably the best perk that you can have for this weapon. I highly recommend having full auto at all times with the Doom Betelgeuse. Not sure what the other perks are, but I recommend full auto because that is the best perk for this weapon. Not only for its you know, impact and rate of fire, which is a lot like the Vex Mythic class, which is a favorite for the community to have full auto and this archetype to have. But also it has Cocoon, and since full auto increases its rate of fire, basically, it increases the DPS on this weapon. And once you get rid of all your bullets, you can switch to your like sniper or rocket launcher. And then once you do that, you can switch without reloading. Like this is actually a really good combination. You can have Doom of Telchis and Defiance of Yasmin mixed together, and you basically never have to reload while doing DPS. And that's actually really good for the King's Fall raid, specifically for like events like Oryx and the War Priest. But however, there are other weapons better than that for those raid bosses, especially for Golgoroth. So is this weapon good? Is it bad? And can it be better? Doom Intelligence is actually some of the better uh, void weapons. Honestly, I would say it's the best, one of the best raid weapons out there. That is exotic, and that has the elemental primaries. Honestly, I am a really big fan of this weapon, not only because it has full auto and cocoon, and just how the archetype works, and you know, it's fairly stable. Uh, Not to mention it has void damage if you get the exotic version of it. Overall, it's just a really, really good weapon. Some people say this is actually the best primary in the King's Fall raid. It's actually fairly debated with the Smite of Moraine. Me personally, I prefer the Smite of Moraine because, you know, it has such utility. But the Duma Chelchis is really good, really for DPS. It's just really good for the King's Fall overall. And yeah, if you have this weapon, go ahead and keep it. Full auto is my recommended perk for that weapon. Okay, Angus of Dristan. This one's a fun one. Okay, like all of the King's Fall raid weapons, you have Will of Light. You already know this, and you're probably tired of me saying it, but I'm still gonna say it. Linear Compensator, Accurized Ballistics, Field Choke. Recommend Linear Compensator yet again. I'm getting really sick of saying that. You have Cocoon. When stowed for a short time, this weapon is automatically reloaded from your reserves. Overall, this is actually a really bad perk for this weapon. Specifically, I'm gonna show you for I'm gonna show you why. Okay, for the second perk tree, we have Fitted Stock, Lightweight, and Brace Frame. Overall, either have Fitted Stock or Brace Frame. A lot of people would say Brace Frame, but I believe if you were to have this Brace Frame activated, it'll make the magazine to 26 or 28, which is not good for this archetype of auto rifle, because this is like between the archetype of Atheon's Epilogue and the high impact, low firing rate auto rifle, which is not good for this archetype, but is actually good for the high firing rate auto rifles. So don't have brace frame. I recommend just have fitted stock. And then you have crowd control for the last perk. Kills with this weapon grants bonus damage for a short time. So Angular Suggestion, good or bad, and can it be better? Honestly, this is probably the worst auto rifle in all of the raids. Like, seriously, this is such a bad weapon. Like, basically, I've gotten to the point where every time that I would get this weapon, it's automatic delete. It's just a horrible weapon. Its stability is absolutely terrible, and even with the one stability perk that actually makes it really high, it reduces the magazine size way too much. Not to mention, if you have brace frame on, its recoil is still very wonky, even though you have linear compensator. And crowd control is basically worthless. Really, for its archetype, I prefer to have something like really counterbalance. Honestly, the only reason to use this weapon if it had counterbalance, if its recoil wasn't terrible, and if you could get rid of Cocoon and basically have more stability on it. It's just an overall bad weapon. Like, could you make this better? Yes, you can. Change everything about this weapon. Like, everything. Like, crowd control, make the recoil a lot less, like, terrible, honestly. Just don't use this weapon, guys. Like, it's just a pretty bad weapon. Like, I still don't know why I have this weapon with me and all that. Okay, this is the last primary. This is called Zadri's Bane. This is a void hand cannon, and this has very, very high rate of fire and very, very low impact. And this is actually a very interesting weapon, if I have to say something about this weapon. Will of Light, you already know that. Every King's Fall weapon has the Will of Light perk. Smart Drift Control, Accurized Ballistics, and Field Choke. Hey, no linear compensator on this weapon. This is the first time I think we actually have seen this, ladies and gentlemen. So either have, I never use this weapon. Accurized Ballistics. Yeah, honestly, Accurized Ballistics, because you get the most range and stability, and you want to get as much range as possible with this weapon. For the first perk, you have Cocoon, like always. Honestly, this is not a good perk to have with this weapon at all, and I'm going to show you why in a little bit. Um, First, you have Hand Loaded for the first part of this skill tree. Then you have Lightweight and Reinforced Barrel, which is overall a really good perk for hand cannons. But I'm still going to tell you why you shouldn't have this weapon. Then last, but certainly the least, you have Life Leech. 3 rapid kills with this weapon heals a small amount and starts health regeneration. So is this weapon good? Is it bad? And can it be better? First, let me start with the pros of this weapon. When you reload this weapon, This reloads exactly the same way as the exotic sidearm Drags Palmas. That's the only pro on this weapon. It looks really cool to reload. It sounds really cool to fire. It's just overall original on its, its sound and effect and all that. It's just overall cool to look at. Rest of it, however, its entire mechanics and how the gun fires and how everything works, absolutely garbage. Life Leech is basically useless for this hand cannon because it doesn't do enough damage against enemies because its impact is so low. And since you're firing this weapon at such a fast rate, its reinforced barrel poker is basically useless because it makes its stability extremely low. And if you have hand loaded activated, you're not going to have as much range, which you actually need for hand cannons. And for Cocoon, forget it. You don't even need Cocoon on this weapon. Even though you need Cocoon for this, even though it has a very slow reload speed, which is actually um, kind of bad for this type of weapon, especially if it's a high rate of fire, low impact hand cannon. It's supposed to have high reload speed, but it doesn't. So basically, Cocoon is a necessity for this weapon instead of a privilege. Um, yeah, overall, this is just a really, really bad weapon. Like, this weapon right here is competing for the first worst raid weapon out of all of the game with Anguish of Dristan. Just don't use this, guys. Like, once you get this weapon, automatic delete, and yeah, it's just a terrible weapon. And even though that Zadri's Bane and Anguish of Dristan are both terrible weapons, I'm still gonna give you the recommended, perks on those weapons. And yeah, scores are gonna be pretty bad here, guys. Like, I think they're gonna be like at least a 1.9, at least for each of them. Making it better for Zadri's Bane, uh, everything really. Both with Anguish of Dristan and Zadri's Bane, everything. Okay, guys, this is gonna be the end of the video. Um, you guys are probably confused because I've done both the heavy and special last week for the raid weapons of the King's Fall, but I only done the primaries. I actually like how this is going to work because next week it's gonna be the Wrath of the Machine weapons. I'm gonna focus on the heavy weapons and the special weapons in the Wrath of the Machine. And then the week after we do those weapons, we're going to do the primary weapons. And that's going to be the last week of Destiny. Um, until Destiny 2 comes out. So that's like going to be around August 27th, I believe. That's going to be next week with Heavy and Special for the Wrath of the Machine. And then it's going to be November 3rd, which is literally like 3 days until Destiny 2 comes out. Which we're going to, we're gonna close up this series in a nice, neat little bow. Okay, guys, that is the end of the video. Make sure you go ahead to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Comment below on what's your favorite King's Fall weapon. Me personally, I would say either the Smile Marine or the Defiance of Yasmin sniper rifle. So comment below what's your favorite King's Fall weapon. And also, stay tuned for the Wrath of the Machine weapons that are going to come out soon for the review slash, judgment on all of the weapons. And yeah, that's going to be it, guys. Make sure you go ahead and check out my Facebook fan page, NW197 Gaming Community. You have exclusive content going on over there, and yeah, if you guys want to see some extra content, you could definitely go ahead over there and check it out. I'm not gonna make a video. I'm probably gonna make a exclusive video, probably the day after this video comes out. Really because, this is late Sunday. I'm recording this. And what's good about Sunday is this is the Lord's Day, which you could rest. Um, yeah, also you go ahead and check out my Twitter. I'm really active there, and I like to do retweets and basically if you want to message me and if you have any questions, that is the best place to go, and I'll try to answer it the best of my ability. So go ahead and check that out. Both my fan page and my Twitter account is going to be in the link in the description. So check those two things out. And thank you guys for watching. And God bless. Goodbye, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.